Hey there, Juan Morales here, and in today's episode we're going to talk a little bit about something that entrepreneurs go through every time they're putting a new idea out to the market and they want to test it out and they want to put it out there and sort of see what happens. And I call this opinions with wallets, right? The reason I call this concept opinions with wallets is because when you show your product, your idea, and your thing to peers, to family members, to friends, to people that are not going to really invest in that solution, their opinion means very, very little in respect to that product being successful. Why? Because they are not in that market. Imagine that you are, as a shopper, right? You are a thrifty shopper. You're always looking for deals, bargains, all these things. When you see one of these launches that comes out for a product that came out into the market, and let's say it's a high-end brand, and now they're selling bottled water for $50 a bottle, or a high-end whiskey, or a top-shelf liquor of any type, tequilas, or any of these things. It's completely out of your realm. So you see all those things as too expensive, way out of the league, it'll never be successful in all this. Why? Because you're not in that market. So you have no idea how many people would actually be receptive to that idea. Conversely, imagine you are in a high-end market, in a luxury market, and as a buyer, you only buy good, durable, brand-based things that you believe is an investment. It'll last longer. It'll stick around for a long time. It's made with the best materials, the best quality, all these things. Let's say a friend of yours comes in and tells you they're going to make a product and it's going to be cheap. They're basically cutting costs wherever they can. Now, if you're that high-end shopper and someone comes in and shows you a bargain basement type product, you're not going to think it's going to be successful because, again, as a client, that's not your makeup. That's not how you look at things. So what this brings is the concept of opinions with wallets. And the reason for this is, and I tell my clients this all the time, is because the only opinions that matter are those that are backed by a wallet, which means that the only opinions when it comes to selling a product, and again, I want to make sure that I'm talking about specifically launching a product, launching a service, launching an idea, turning it into a business, creating a new offering. Well, it's only the people that were willing to buy that in the first place, that had the funds, that had everything needed in order to get it, and that's when you can learn whether that offer appeals to them or doesn't. The number one mistake I see people make when it comes to this is they start asking of opinions of the wrong people. Is they start asking for opinions from the wrong people. And we all do that. I've done that many times. And at the time, I'm not realizing that the person I'm talking to is not a part of the market that I intend to sell to. Because in my mind, I'll grab the most generic descriptor of the person I'm aiming for, and then the person I'm showing the new idea to, well, they fit that descriptor. Now, let's call it, men over the age of 50 or, women in general, right? But that's not really a market definition. You're just really showing it to someone who you have around to get a little bit of feedback, but that feedback can be infinitely misleading. It can lead you to either A, believe that an idea is stronger than you should think it is, because they love it and they think it's going to be a hit, so now you're making decisions based on that. Or they can give you another type of feedback, which is the feedback of, I don't think it's going to work, this doesn't seem like it's going to be a good fit, it doesn't feel like there's appetite in the market for this or whatever. And if you let it become real for you, then you'll take their word as though it was the market's feedback. But the truth is, the market votes with their wallet. The opinions that count happens with wallets. If you put something out there and the people that are there that are seeing it, they are looking at it, they're asking questions about it, but they're not buying it, then you can question what's happening. Because it's only their opinion that matters. It's not yours and it's not mine. It's theirs. The only opinion that matters for you is the one that the marketplace has of the offering and the things that you're putting out there. And it's only the market. Everybody does have an opinion, but people that have opinions outside your market have an irrelevant opinion to you. And those opinions tend to harm us way more than they help us. This is when we revert to family members, friends, just people we have around and that we trust. So we think their feedback is going to be useful for us. But in reality, what you see is, number one, they're outside of the market, so it doesn't matter. And number two, a lot of people, at least that's been my experience, but a lot of people, and a lot of my clients go through this as well, is that when someone asks you for feedback, a lot of people want to sound smart, which means that they're going to look and try to pick apart whatever you have because they want to sound smart. And they believe that by giving you that criticism, that's a way of showing you love in a way, appreciation in a way, and at the same time, they come off as smart people. But what you have to understand is, if they're not in the market, if they wouldn't have bought it anyway, if you hadn't shown it to them, if they're not actively looking for a solution for that, they're not the right people. This is like trying to sell steak to vegans. No matter how good the steak is, and no matter how much money the vegans have, it'll never happen. Why? Because they're not in the market. They're not looking for that. So think about that next time you have a great idea, you take some actions, and then you face this very daunting sense of this feedback gap in there, where you go out and you show the idea to a couple of people and you genuinely get feedback from them. And when you do get that feedback, sometimes it's not great. But that's why you can still get the feedback. Just know that a lot of it you're going to throw away anyway. But you're looking for golden nuggets that you can find within that feedback, because there's always something that you want to bring in. But that's because it's your opinion that should go in there. Not because they said that it was too cheap or too expensive, too big or too small, too loud or too quiet, whatever the story is. They weren't going to buy that in the first place. So trying to sell them on something that they weren't going to buy in the first place is a terrible place to work from. The best way to do it is to put it out there and get the feedback from the actual people that are looking to invest in it. And if they do tell you that it's too expensive, then you can circle back and ask them why they believe that to be that way. And that'll give you insight into the market. And that'll give you more marketing fodder that you can add to whatever you're creating so that it does resonate with them better. If they're thinking that it's too expensive, it's because the value proposition hasn't been made as clear as it could to that prospect. That's why they're considering it to be too expensive. Therefore, it allows you to tweak your messaging. It allows you to know how it's landing over there by getting that feedback. But trust me, getting feedback from the people around you before testing it to the market itself only gets you more headaches, more pain, more indecision, more inaction. And it just builds like a habit. It builds. And eventually you find yourself in this situation where you don't launch anything because you think that every time you're going to launch something, it's a highly criticized thing, especially if you're surrounded by people that criticize a lot. This is a very pervasive thing, and a lot of people go through it. And I've gone through it as well. I had a piece of software that at the time one of my mentors took his time to review it, and I launched the software, or at least put a date to launching that software. And my mentor checked it after I had already set the date, and he told me that I should not launch it. That became a blockbuster product. But he had told me not to launch it. And again, he wasn't going to invest in that software piece anyway. Eventually, although, and this is kind of funny about it, that same mentor ended up using the software himself and for his business and everything. But it's one of those things where it's like, hey, people have opinions, and people also are thirsty for attention, which means that they're going to look for anything in your offering that is not the greatest in the world, and they're going to make a big deal of that not being the greatest in the world. Stop listening to them and start listening to the only people that matter in the case of your product or service, who is your market. That's the only people you should care about. Other people can have their opinions, and they're fine. Those are opinions, but you don't have to take them. The market votes with the wallets, opinions with wallets. And when you do that, and when you operate from that, then you'll be able to really get your messaging very tight and very well put only for the people in your market. Those who are not in your market, great, let them stay out. You're not trying to change them to becoming a part of your market. They weren't looking for that anyway. So always remember to focus on what your market thinks and not what people around you are saying. Your market is the only one whose vote matters. Till next time, this is Juan Morales signing out. I'll see you on the next.